Okay, let's now take a look at how we can show and hide things in our browser depending on the status of whether or not a user is currently logged in. And we have a flag to help us with this. And let's go and use that flag. So I'm just going to right click the template URL and say go to definition, so it opens up the template. And let's say first of all we want to hide our links when a user is logged in. So I'm going to demonstrate two different ways of doing this. One of them valid from prior to Angular 17 and including Angular 17. So you can do it this way no matter which version of Angular you are on. And another approach that is only valid for Angular 17 and above. So the first way of doing this is to use the structural directive of *ngIf equals, and then we can specify the value of logged in. So if logged in equals true, then we want to show this unordered list. And if logged in is not equal to true, then because this is a structural directive, then there will be no unordered list in our domain object model in our browser. But of course, because we're using standalone components, we also need to import the ngIf into our imports array here. So I'm just going to import the ngIf, which we get from Angular Common. And if I go and take a look at the browser, then I can see that we do not have the links inside here. If I log in as Dave and the password, then when I'm logged in and that flag is set to true, then I do see the links. We're not persisting this login, so if I do refresh the page, then the links go away because that logged in flag has now been reset back to its initial value, which is false. But the alternative way of doing this from Angular 17 and onwards is not to use the ngIf and importing this into our standalone component. Then the alternative way is to use the built-in control flow in Angular. So I'm going to remove the ngIf from there. And above our unordered list, we can type @if and then specify logged in. And then inside the curly brackets, we can put the code in that we want to be conditional based on what's contained inside these parentheses. So if logged in equals true, and what we're saying here is that this logged in, just as it is there, is equivalent to saying logged in equals true. The alternative case for that would be ! logged in, and that means false. So we're checking to see if this is true, and if it is, we're going to display this. And if a user is not logged in, then we want to display the login form. So I'm just going to add an @if statement here as well and say not logged in. And inside these curly brackets, we can put our form and drop it inside there. And there's something else I want to display here as well. If they are logged in, then instead of displaying the form, I'd actually like to display a drop-down, for example. And we can say, we can either use another if statement here. And in fact, I think I will, just for the way of organization. But we could use an @else, that's also available. Also else if is available as well. But just for the structure of this component, and because I feel it's going to look a bit neater, I'm just going to add another @if statement here and say if logged in, then I want to display effectively a drop-down. So I'm going to create a div, and I'm going to give it a class of drop-down. And one way we could do that, a kind of shorthand way of doing this, is to say div period, and then drop-down. And when I press tab, then that creates the class of drop-down with this particular div. And then I'm going to create an A tag with the class of drop-down dash toggle. And then the second class, I'll add another period and say text dash light. And inside this A tag, I don't need the href, so I'll remove that for the time being and just say welcome user. And then I'll add another div and it'll give this a class of drop-down dash menu. And then I need another couple of A tags inside here. So this is going to have a class of dropdown dash item. Again, I'm just going to remove the href, and I'm just going to say edit profile as one link, and I'll copy this down, and we'll use this to log out. Now this dropdown relies on JavaScript functionality, or in our case, we're going to use the NGX Bootstrap component library to add the functionality to this a bit later. So it's not going to do anything for us yet, but when it does, we'll use this to call a logout function, which we do need to create as well. So back in our nav component, as well as login, let's create another function to log out. And our logout is not going to do much just now, so we're just going to say list logged in equals false, just to switch that flag back to its initial value. But because our drop-down component is going to need functionality that we haven't added yet, then I will add the click event here. So to call a logout function, we need to use the click event handler, and then we can call our logout function. But we will not be able to see that just yet. So what I'm also going to do is just copy this list item and add another list item there, and give this a name of logout, and give this the same click events, and also call logout here as well. So we've got three conditionals basically. If we're logged in, we're going to see the menu. If we are also logged in, we're going to see this drop down that doesn't do anything drop down related yet, but we will be able to see it. And if we're not logged in, then we're going to see our form. So let's go and test this small piece of functionality. So not logged in, I do not see the links. And if I log in as Bob and password, then that doesn't work because I'm using Dave currently. So I'm going to press return, and now I am logged in, and I see the different links. I see the drop down. The drop down doesn't do anything yet. We still need to configure that, but I should be able to log out, and we've retained our information, I should say, in the login form, because we're not doing anything to reset the form after we have logged in. We'll deal with that a bit later. And for now, it does provide a bit of convenience because it's retained the username and password, so I can just click it to log in and log out, and we can see our conditional functionality is doing its job, which is great. And the next thing we need to look at is how to make this drop-down behave like a drop-down, and we'll take a look at that next.